Okay, buddy. Just gonna do a quick video painting this fish, Saurodon. I just painted Xiphactinus, so I'll send you a list of the fish that I still need you to paint. One of the other things I'm gonna send you is this background layer that I'm dragging from this Dolly Corincops here. This background layer is important because all of the signage will have basically the same background. This one's like a little bit of a wonky one that I just chopped together for reference. But I'll send you this background file. Drop that in behind the fish so that we know what we're dealing with, so that they look good on the background. And then we're gonna do basically what I showed you in the first video. I'm gonna go into a little more detail just as to how I like to fucks with the pencil layer, because there's some things that you can do that will make the pencil interact nicely with the underlying paint layers that are real simple. So I'm gonna grab a quick reference file, and I'll send you a list of fish I need you to paint, and then I'll send you reference for each one, just to kind of like give you an idea of some things I'm thinking. But obviously I don't want you to just copy shit exactly. I'm totally fine with you being inventive. So I like this fish called an opa. It's this weird looking fucker. Check this thing out. It's got bright fucking orange fins. It's a big open water fish. For some reason I just thought these orange fins would look cool on this thing called Saurodon. So I'm gonna start by grabbing like a base color, and I'm gonna dump that into my Saurodon fill. Bump, bump, bump. And I'm gonna grab a purpley color, and I've got like a nice big airbrush tool going. It was not big. And then I'm going to start creating some just simple gradients with these, because that if you set up a nice gradient base layer, a lot of animals, like, their colors actually kind of naturally do that. There'll be some gradation from the top to the bottom. A lot of animals are counter shaded, especially in the ocean, so I'm just creating kind of like a little bit of counter shading on our base layer. Let's see here. We've got these nice reflective layers, there's this nice like dark underlighting on these fish, and we can actually tint the pencil layer to reflect that. But I'll do that in a sec. I'm gonna first just get basic. Ooh, there's some nice greens in here. I'm gonna get like a basic color gradient set up first. I'm thinking, I'll get this on multiply. Throw some greens up top. Those will contrast nicely with the orange of the fins. I'm gonna grab my orange. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Turn the fucking ruler on. Just go 100 with that. Okay, I'm gonna grab a lighter color. And one of the things as you've probably encountered when you're painting underneath a pencil layer, everything is going to look a little darker than what you pick, so sometimes you got to pick a lighter layer. Another thing I do a lot of is I go back with the dodge tool and dodge shit way up to get like my highlights pulled out and stuff. So I'm not gonna copy the Opa's color scheme exactly, but I'm gonna just draw some ideas from it and then kind of elaborate on those. Like, I'm thinking it would be cool to bring some yellows into these, especially these back little narrow fins. I mean, the only possible reason I can think of for having this like super narrow little fin under the tail here, I mean, maybe it has some hydrodynamic function, but to me it just looks like probably something for display. A lot of fish will have weird fins that they just use to show off to each other. I'm gonna leave that little gradation there. That's kind of nice. So something you can do, you can get like your base color set up. I'm not gonna go in and do like specular lighting like this, because that's we just don't have time to do that for everything. And these guys aren't like in an environment; they're gonna be on this like kiosk background, right? So what I'm gonna do to give it a little life, see how all the dark values in this opa, they're not actually black; they're like fucking rad hues of blue and green and shit like that. So what I'll do is I'll grab my pencil layer, and I'll go to hue and saturation, and then I'll colorize it, And okay, so that colorized it to what was color picked, which is the reddish orange color, which actually is kind of nice. We're getting these pinkish effects there, so we can kind of play with that. And I'll just very often I'll just slide through and like see what looks good. And actually that reddish orange color really was working for me. I think that works. Go like, yeah, let's see. So that's a yellowish color. I can go pretty saturated with that too. That's kind of dope. All right, so I'm gonna go with that. And then I'll also go, actually I should have probably done this first. I'll adjust levels on the color, on the pencil layer to kind of get, the like blacks pulled up to a level that I like and the highlights kind of popping. This one's already got pretty intense highlights. So I'm actually gonna drop this down a bit. It brings out a little more of that texture. See that? And then what you can do is I will grab a purplish color off of our reference image, and I will put my, you can put your brush in hue or color, and what that'll do is that won't change the actual lightness or darkness values of what you're coloring. It'll just change the hue. So if I turn off everything underneath this, let's do this. You can see that it's just affecting the hue of the pencil drawing. So what you can do is you can set up counter gradients in the pencil drawing that like kind of counteract. In some cases it works really nicely to kind of counteract your underpainting. Whoops, wrong layer. So that was what was happening. If I use that same brush on the color layer, you can see it's turning everything that color. Whereas here, it's just shifting the actual pencil values, and the pencil values are on multiply mode. So we're getting kind of a nice effect, I think. And I'm going to grab this red color, and I'm going to make this big stripe a deep red just because I fucking think that would be cool. Let's see. I wanted to throw some yellow in this guy somewhere. I'm going to grab one of these kind of golden hues. And I'm going to throw more yellow up front here. I'm going to throw some yellow on this fin. I'm going to saturate that more. Oh, that wasn't gold at all. Colors be tricking me. Oh, and I've got this on color mode still. I'm going to take it back to... Actually going to go color dodge and see what happens. Oops, I'm on the pencil layer. Didn't mean to do that. Alright, let's see. Alright, I'm going to go normal. Whoops, I'm back on the color layer. Whoopsies. Just putting a little yellow on those fins, give them a little bit of life. Make the tips yellow. Fish will do weird display shit like that. Okay, a little yellow here. Now, so this is like, I don't know, it's going okay. We need to give the eye some life. You'll notice how in fish they'll very often have very reflective rims on their irises. So what I will do is first I'm going to go in on my color layer and I'm going to just boost up the eye like on a base level. And very often what you'll get is light coming in from the top, hitting the bottom of the eye. You'll get a little bit more background reflection there. But my pencil layer is kind of interfering with me here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create another layer. And I usually call like, okay, so my bottom layer is my color layer. My middle layer is my pencil layer. And I usually label these as such, but I don't really care about the labeling as long as shit looks good. And then my top layer I call my overpaint. And on my overpaint layer, that I can like, you know, paint over the pencil, so I can create like those points of focus. And that is not the color I want. And very often, like, I'll use my brush. I'm at like 33% opacity right now. I made these darker highlights with like whatever I was at 50 or something. And this is where I will go in and so more attention to detail towards the head of the animal. Middle of the animal, people tend not to look at as much. But you know what I may do, this pencil texture isn't like great for a fish, so I may muddy that up with the smudge tool a little bit. But what I'm going to do before anything else is I'm going to grab one of these colors. Give me kind of a nice pinkish color. And I'm going to go on my color layer. And I can do two things. I can go put my brush in color dodge mode. And so this will create nice specular highlights. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of think where do I want like my brightest highlights to be? And that last touch I did was a little bit hot for kind of a general background one. So I'm gonna go like 10% with my brush, give it a little sweep. Now usually there's a reflection. If you look at this guy, the brightest spot is kind of across this middle part, because as the form curves towards your eye, it's like, for whatever reason, that light tends to bounce toward your eye. So it actually gets fairly dark around the outline in a lot of cases. And then you'll get under reflections in the other, like those curved areas that are throwing light back at your eye. So I tend to give my fish a little bit of love in that area just to like boost things up. And then you can always come back later, even when you don't have the same color selected, and you can just hit it with the dodge tool if you want to punch things up a little further. So I'm gonna give this guy some reflectivity up here. I'm gonna give him a little bit of reflectivity on the bottom because that will look cool. A little bounce light action. I'm gonna boost up my brush. Give him one more pass like that. Let's see. We still have time on the camera. It's got an hour. Okay, cool. We're gonna plenty of time. So create those highlight regions, and then I'm gonna grab my darker, shadowy color. Whoops! Didn't grab that guy. I'm gonna go back to multiply mode, and I'm gonna just run this at like 10% in kind of like wherever I want kind of the low light to be. Kind of feel it out. Look at the reference animals. Look at just what looks good. Like I'm gonna knock down this highlight a little because it's like brighter than anything else right now. And one of the nice things about having these things nicely cut out like you did for me is we've got nice control. So I can use this big feathery airbrush. I'm not doing anything really detailed, but it's constrained. The outline's nice and constrained, which is nice. And I kind of feel like now I knocked the bottom down too much. So I may go back in. You know what I'm going to do? It's nice to kind of bring out this this belly reflection though. So I'm going to grab just a light color. I'm going to go back to color dodge. And then I boost this again. Kind of bring back that sense of a counter shaded animal, but nice and shiny. So we're getting a sense of the animal being this like reflective, smooth thing. And I'm pretty happy with that for like a base paint job. And then I'm going to jump back to my overpaint layer. So I'm going to be painting on top of the pencil now. I'm going to grab a nice like highlight color. Let's see, what do I want to do here? Yeah, I'm going to start with like this pale purple as my highlight color. I might come back and hit it with a warmer color on certain areas like the nose and stuff, but we'll start with this. Since we want it to look reflective, I'm gonna go with kind of a chalky brush, not the straight up airbrush. I'm gonna like kind of refine things a little more now. And I'm just gonna hit those highlight areas just to kind of like suggest the form a little more with the fishy. And like this type of fish, I can't remember if it's supposed to have scales or not, but whatever. A lot of fish, the scales are so small. We're just not going to worry about it for Soradon. So I'm going to just hit some of these highlight areas, just give it a little more structure. Nice thing about it being on an overpaint layer is if I decide I want to taper off these highlights, I can hit them with a soft eraser, knock them down. Fish will often have, if you look at this guy's cheek, there'll often be these like streaks and stripes and stuff in their cheek. It's actually where bones are underlying the flesh. So like we can just kind of accentuate some of those here just a little bit, just so that the thing isn't just a straight pencil drawing. I think this fish is supposed to have some kind of smallish scale pattern. So with this chalky brush, I'm just going to stamp out, especially in like the transition from the highlight area is the most important. As I think you want that color, you want that texture in the half lit region. Nice thing about Photoshop, once I stamp out a section of texture, boom, 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 grab my clone stamp, and we are going to clone stamp this texture all the way down the body so that we save time. Oh, and I'm clone stamping it too hard. So that's clone stamping at 100. I'm gonna clone stamp at like 50 because then that'll give us a little more leeway. So again, this doesn't have to be like super precise. These guys are gonna be. These aren't gonna be like centerpieces of the show. They're gonna be things on exhibit signage and stuff. I'm mainly doing this sword-on one because I had this idea for doing it like an Opa, and I wanted to do that. Now, as you can see, it's getting a little muddy and fucked up in some areas, but because we're on an overpaint layer, it's so easy to fix because we can just grab, let's see, I want a little more texture here, a little more texture here. If I go too much, I can start going in and kind of like sculpting it down with the eraser. Little hot there. Now, sometimes what'll happen once you start building up your highlights and stuff, you realize that your base animal, is like a little bit fucking, I don't know. It's not like you're losing your contrast or something, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deselect that because that fucking outline distracts the fuck out of me when I'm fine-tuning lighting. And I'm going to grab the pencil. Well, I'm going to grab the color layer first. And I'm going to go brightness and contrast. And I'm going to fuck around with this a little bit. And I think, yeah, I want to knock down that underlayer because then that brings out the contrast that you created with the overpaint layer a little bit more. The other thing I'm going to do as soon as I'm done with that is I'm going to go to hue and saturation, and I'm going to just screw around with it a little, because sometimes the best looking color scheme is like a degree or two off from what you pick, or what I pick, because I'm an idiot and don't do enough plein air painting with my dude. So I actually kind of like that down at 17, a little bit greener. I'm gonna actually go with that. Whoop, pen's fucking up. Let's see, do I want more saturated? No, I think I actually want to knock down the saturation just a hair, just so that it like feels a little more naturalistic in some areas. Actually, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna do that with the desaturation tool. See, and right there feels good to me. Okay, so then I am gonna do, now that I did that, I'm gonna like go back again with the dodge tool. Just bring up this section one more time. And I don't know, I'm feeling like about that fish. It's not like the most beautiful thing I've ever done, but we have a fuck lot of these to do. I'm just gonna go across it and look for any like stupid issues that I hate. I'm pretty much alright with this dude. I think that sword on is about done. Oh yeah, you know what I did want to do? Oh, see on that overpaint layer there's a little bit of fuckery going on. Nice thing about that, just knock it down with the eraser. I want to smudge this pencil layer a little. There's a few areas where it's a little too sketchy for me. Like it doesn't feel like, it just doesn't feel like fish texture, you know? Like I'm happy with, like right in here, that feels like fish texture to me. This kind of feels like fish texture. Down here where you got like abrupt edges for some reason, I don't even know how that happened. I feel like it needs to be a little softer. And then this shit I'm not crazy about. This really scribbly shit where I clearly just wasn't giving a fuck. That shit, for a fish, I feel like it's just too slop mode. And this could be done with a clone stamp too. Whatever. In fact, yeah, I'm gonna clone stamp a little on top of some of these scribbles. Just too scribbly for me. Now, if you don't feel the same way, I don't give a fuck. As long as fish are getting colored, we'll be good. You and I are going to have much stronger opinions about the actual art aesthetic of this stuff than the client is. Since I'm going to jump down to the color layer, I'm noticing one little thing that bugs me. There's like a double outline here because I'm a sketchy bastard. What I'm going to do, oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. I want to what do I want to do? I guess I want to clone snap that out. I don't feel like completely fixing everything. I'm just going to clean that up just a hair. There's some sketchy shit going on here too. But okay, I think this is about done. Oh yeah, on the overpaint layer, in some of these highlight parts of the mouth, I'm going to go in and just give it a little more definition. Just a touch. So black on like 20%. Just a little bit more. Just make it pop a little bit. And then sometimes what makes sense to me to do is grab that multiplied pencil layer. Sometimes it helps to put your eraser on like 10% and just take off a little of that lower outline edge. It just, to me, seems to make things just look a hair more realistic when you don't have such a strong outline. Just knock it down a hair. All right. Yeah, I think that's about good. If you deliver things to me that are anywhere near this quality, then we're good, basically. You know, I may futz around with them like when I finalize stuff, but yeah, that's painting a fish, and that's fucking 21 minutes of video, so I'm gonna stop. Thanks, buddy.